Live back on my channel. Hello. My name is Sucharita. For everybody who is watching us right now, I think like 4 people are watching right now. But when this broadcast is going to air again, then there will be more people joining. Um, Hi, Suchin. Suchin is here. I'm going to add him to the stream right now. Hi.
Hi, what's up?
How cute you're looking, Suchin, in this fancy lighting and everything.
I know it's full production happening here, so it's pretty cool.
Wonderful. You've been working out. Good job on uploading the working out videos, by the way, like stepping into the influencer era, Suchin.
I'm just taking your inspiration completely.
I am very impressed. I'm so impressed with you. Okay, so this is what I'm calling the long review, where I'm going to hoodwink my film critic friends into joining me and talking about everything we watched either previous week or earlier this week. And today I'm going to be talking with Suchin and I'm going to be talking with Gayle, who's having some technical difficulties, but she's going to join us soon. Um, and we're going to talk about two things. We're talking about Taaza Khabar, that's on Disney Plus Hotstar. But we're also going to talk about Aftersun on MUBI because I feel like I've spoken about Taaza Khabar a lot, and I think I want to talk about Aftersun a little bit more. But we're going to get into Aftersun in a little bit as soon as Gayle joins because she actually had the opportunity to speak with the director of the film, Charlotte Wells. I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous that Gayle got to do this. While Gayle sets up in the background, don't worry, Gayle, you're not in the frame. Until you set up, I won't put you in the frame. You're fine. I can see you're in the background. You're in backstage right now. Sachin, so अच्छा, you watch ताज़ा खबर and ये Aftersun और कुछ देखा तूने इस हफ्ते?
No, only those two things. Time is a weird construct. No, just those two things. Yeah.
Time is a weird construct. Okay, so let's start with initial thoughts on ताज़ा खबर before we jump into Aftersun.
So I didn't love it. I liked a lot of it. I really loved the idea of it. And what I keep coming back to is the pilot episode, which just sets up the world, the characters, the tone. Is one of my favorite sort of pilot episodes of any sort of Indian show I've seen in the last few months, um, which I really enjoyed. I just love the concept of it. It's basically a sort of a big Bollywood masala film split into 6 episodes, with obviously a slightly magic realism twist, and I was just completely on board. And then I didn't think it really sustained its energy throughout. And by the end, where it ended up, I thought maybe it sort of taken a really cool premise somewhere else. But there's a lot to enjoy. It's very hard not to, in quotes, enjoy the show, even if it didn't completely come together. Because I just think that sort of Bhuvan and the entire team, they know how to make a really fun show. So even if
Yeah.
I didn't completely love it, I was always sort of enjoying it to some extent.
But what was holding you from completely loving it? What were the things about Taza Khabar that didn't work for you? Gail, I still
Um,
see you in the background. Don't worry. I'll add you in when you give me a double thumbs up like this and you tell me that you're good to go. Then I'll add you in. But what is it about Taza Khabar that didn't work for you?
So I think two things that come to mind. It was too much. I get very scared of saying this because I think too many Indian streaming shows don't earn their length. But it was too ambitious to sort of stick into 6 20-minute episodes. I thought the kind of arc it was trying to tell of that massive rags to riches story, and so it was very jumpy. So I mean, there were literally so. I didn't. The whole point of a show is you feel a sense, an arc of transformation in the journey of a character going from somewhere to somewhere else. Whereas here, literally, you could split that show up into, Bhuvan's character is Vasya is this in the first 2 episodes, and then suddenly he becomes something else, and suddenly he becomes something else. My favorite example of this is in the fourth episode. If he
Yeah.
starts off as nobody with a bit of success, and
Huh.
then suddenly it becomes this KGF style, Don of Bombay, and then by the end he's in a police station. So it was a very sort of jagged arc. And the only other thing I'd say is the whole show was clearly designed to be a superstar vehicle for Bhuvan. Hi, Gail is here.
No, keep
Hey,
carry on. I'm listening to you. I have a rebuttal to everything. Not everything, but one point you're making. I have a rebuttal. One point. Gail, what you do is your phone now, tera kar le, so that you can appear full screen like that instead of being
this
Done.
way?
Yeah.
Look,
Okay. While you fix it, I'm going to continue talking to Suchin. Suchin, yes.
No, so the only other thing I'd say is the whole show is clearly designed to be a superstar vehicle for Bhuvan, which is fine. It literally is that larger than life masala role to present him as this massive hero. And I think there were a couple of times I felt the show where that agenda sort of took over. So, for example, there's a very random action scene that takes place.
Yeah.
Where
I asked him also about that
yeah,
in my interview.
you
I was
interviewed
like,
him.
ये सिर्फ तूने थोड़ा showcase करने के लिए डाला था
Yeah,
ना वहां पर.
yeah.
But he's like, नहीं ये नहीं वो नहीं. See, you know, I hear what you're saying कि वो पहले एक character होता है, फिर वो suddenly एक
Yeah,
episode में कुछ और बन जाता है, फिर वो तीसरे
yeah,
episode में कुछ और बन जाता है. My reading of that was that he, you know, in his mind, he's all these people already. He's
yeah,
already Mumbai ka Don. He's
yeah,
already a rich man in his head, not actually being it. So when the money comes, it doesn't take long for him to turn into that person because he's prepared his whole life to be a rich person. He's
yeah,
daydreaming about being rich and all that. So that didn't bother me so much. I obviously it's not the most polished production we've seen.
yeah,
No, not production wise, like most polished kind of show we've seen in terms of like, you know, dramatic storytelling. But having said that, I bought into the world. I bought into, you know, it's to contextualize the show. It was very fun to see how Bhuvan and his team and his writers and his producers are moving forward, creating, enhancing the mythology of Bhuvan Bam, and
yeah,
like in the most effective way possible. You know, they've done YouTube sketches, then they've done a little bit of this and that, they've done music videos, they did a whole sketch comedy series, which was just a far bigger achievement in my opinion,
yeah,
in the way, in the new ground that it kind of broke a
yeah,
little bit. And then now to expand the lore, you know, the mythology, like this is real life myth creating around a person, around a brand name. And for that I give them full marks for being very good, understand, having a very good understanding of who the people who are watching them, who are the people they want to talk to as well, and what is it that they're bringing to the table, the kind of entertainment they're bringing to the table. So they've taken the markers कि ये हमारा action sequence है, ये हमारी दुखिया माँ है, ये हमारी टेम्पट्रेस है, सेक्स वर्कर है, ये एक कम्युनिटी है जहाँ पर मुसलमान, क्रिश्चियन, हिंदू सब आपस में पास में रहते हैं, but कहीं, you know, and but also what I really respected and admired about the show was that it was trying at least to do political commentary
yeah,
in its own way. There is, you know, shots of him reading about tax increase on his phone, then the bridge collapsing, even though the show has been written like and you know, conceptualized a year ago, but it's strangely prescient because there's a bridge collapsing, and then there is you know, other things like MPs deflecting parties and, you know, that kind of things. So I thought that it was also trying to make a political statement, and also like, you know, agar for a person to move from one station of life to another quickly enough to be able to enjoy the riches that they suddenly
yeah,
come into, it takes magic to make that happen. That's the
yeah. I
comment
love
the
that.
show
Yeah,
is making, that it's just not going to happen without divine intervention. Like our society and our world is just not created in a way that enables that to happen for people. So these are some of the reasons why I bought into it. And then also I think Bhuvan is just really like come into his own as a dramatic actor, as a performer. I
yeah,
was very impressed. Oh, sorry.
yeah.
ये तो मेरा screenshot है from my interview, guys. Plugging settle. Please watch the interview. It's quite fun.
No, I thought he was so much fun to watch. I really thought he has the charisma to carry a show that, you know, that I really enjoyed watching him in the more
Yeah.
dramatic portions, you know, in obviously the sort of comedy and the action and things like that. And I really did think that through the show, that even when it's not working for me, these are storytellers that I really want to see what they make next. You know, I'm rooting for them completely. But and I did see that point in your review, and I really liked it. That idea of the only way for to have the definitive rags to riches story is magic. You know, I love that idea, and it's very true. But no, I did sort of struggle with aspects of it. I think Rahul said something in his review which really got to me as well, which was very interesting, where he said that Bhuvan is so used to playing different characters that even here, when he's playing the same person, because there's such a dramatic transformation, it
He's
feels like
treating it as two different
yeah,
characters.
yeah. But
I
no, I
see
mean,
that.
yeah. But it was a really fun show, and I really like it's, you know, cliches. It's sort of old wine in a new bottle. I enjoyed that. You know, I know for a lot of people that was off-putting. That why, you know, it's familiar territory, but I enjoyed just the idea of making a larger-than-life masala film as a series. All of those cliches which we recognize so well, but done with a fresh, interesting energy. So I enjoyed that. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think it was a fun
Yeah,
start
yeah,
to the
me
year.
too. I enjoyed that as well, and I give them full marks for doing that, for
Yeah,
taking tropes and then you know, having the guts to play around with the tropes, knowing that it could very well go wrong
yeah,
very quickly. Hi Malhar. Just reading one comment. For anybody who's watching us right now, please click that like button, because if you click like, तो फिर लोग जो है वो देखेंगे और उन्हें पता चलेगा कि हमारी ऐसे लाइव स्ट्रीम चल रही है. Now I'm gonna add the Gayle, but before that, Bifur the Hobbit is saying Aftersun was good, but I can't watching it more than once. For one person who has actually watched it more than once. Hi, Gayle.
Hi. So I
Perfect.
watched Aftersun twice. I think for me it gets
Yes.
even better on second watch. Like the first time I watched it, it takes you a while to sort of figure out what's going on. At first you
Yeah.
think it's just this father-daughter on vacation sort of story, and you're like, oh, she's precocious. She's asking him the kind of questions that only children can ask, trying to get to know a little bit more about him, it's sweet and all of that. And then the framing device sort of kicks in, and then you realize all of this is just her looking back at the past because she's lost contact with her dad. He left her at some point that we don't know about, and all of that just becomes so much more heartbreaking. I think in when you watch the movie a second time, all of this becomes so much more clear. So for me, the second watch was a lot more rewarding, but the first watch was just it was a lot more emotionally devastating.
I was not ready for it. I really did not think that movie is going to go where it went. You know? I was prepared to watch like a good movie because obviously if
Mm-hmm.
MUBI is doing a premiere it's of a movie, if a movie's presenting a movie to the world, you can rest assured it's going to be a very very good movie. And this film has already created so many waves around the world. It's winning awards, and Paul Mescal is being touted for best actor nomination at the Academy Awards. So I was prepared to watch a good film, but I was just, and you know what really amazing I thought about After Sun is that how simple it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's so simple. It's so easy to tell the story that she is told. And it's so honest the way she's telling the story. Even the cinematic craft that she's used, a mix of flashback slash, can we call it found footage genre? Perhaps not, because
You
found
can, I
footage just
think,
kind of
because she
makes you
is
think
looking
of
back at
horror.
footage of that holiday.
Yeah, but then it makes you think of Blair Witch Project, right?
Hey,
You know, but there, I mean,
I
I'm not
mean,
going to
it's
say this is
existential
horror.
horror.
It is horror of some sort, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's a mix of flashback, found footage, and but it's so simple because we are that age now. You're not. You're both. No, Suchit is in his 30s now. Gail is not. But we are close to that age where Sophie is when she's taking a moment to look at the videos and
Mhm.
reflect. And I have found myself doing this now. When I watched that Andrew Garfield movie as well, where he's playing the Broadway
Tick tick boom.
Oh, tick, tick,
Tick
boom.
Tick Boom, there's a song where he's talking about what's life going to be now that you're 30 years old or something like that. There's a whole song, and then he's also like, what are we going to do, what am I going to do? And so I find myself in this place in life right now where I have a lot of nostalgia all of a sudden about my formative years as a young girl, and what my parents did, and if they could have done it better, or if they did what was right, or if they made mistakes. And this film, like I said in my review as well, I felt like it was reading me, because I
Mhm.
could picture my face on Sophie's body as that 11-year-old who's in a resort with her parent during a vacation and completely unaware how formative these 2 weeks are, and only realizing in her early 30s what that was and what that has done to her adult personality.
Mhm.
Suchin, initial thoughts?
Yeah, I watched this film literally hours ago, so it is so fresh in my mind. Apna Open Theatre saying I watched it twice too because I did not want to do anything after watching it for the first time. This is actually the point I was just about to make, that I almost feel like it's a film you have to watch twice, or at least for me, because again, the end changes your perspective and everything, and you really want to, exactly like Sophie's sort of doing, you literally want to revisit it. And I was sort of prepared to be devastated because I'm watching it late, so I've got, I'm sort of heard all the hype about it, but no, it literally is a film that you desperately want to read about and revisit, because you're looking sort of for those clues. You're trying to decode who he is, and what's happening and happened to him, and going to happen to him. What you said is also very interesting. The idea that it's very simple, like the film itself is very simple, but it's also very tough to get that right, I thought, because which is actually something that the director, said to Gayle in an interview, subtle plug, about that balance, to really strike a balance of him sort of performing and trying to put together this happy holiday, but also the clues of how he's just not completely okay. So no, but it is, yeah. So I was thinking a lot about that technically it is such a simple film, but at the same time there is so much there. And yeah, it is really something that I really want to revisit when I have the emotional energy again, to just, yeah, because the ending really makes you want to sort of revisit every moment with him again.
Yeah. Gail, more thoughts?
Yeah, I think the restraint is something that really works in its favor. Because for a long time, at least for me in the under pressure sequence, it starts
Oh my
out as so
God.
joyful and he's
Oh
doing
my
that goofy
God.
dance and you are
Oh
grinning
my
along,
God.
and then it cuts back to the her at the rails. And that was the moment in the film that completely broke me. Like I
I
couldn't stop
cried and
sobbing.
I cried and I cried and I
I
cried.
don't think I've ever cried like this in a film before. Like I usually like crying at films. I
Wow.
find them very cathartic to sit in a dark theater and like sob, and it's between you and the screen and it's just your emotions. But I don't think I've ever cried at a film like this before. Like it ended and I
Really?
could not stop sobbing. Yeah, I mean
Really?
that's why the restraint really works, because it's so sunny and so joyful, and then the sadness suddenly sort of sneaks up on you all at once. That's what happened to
Yeah.
me.
And it wasn't just sadness. It was like the catharsis is what made me cry. The realization that she is realizing, um that she has to, because we don't know where her father is. Is he
Hmm.
dead? Is he alive? Did he leave her? Did he
I
ever?
thought was it just me? I thought the suicide was fairly implied. Is that just in my head?
I don't know. I don't. Was it Gail? Did you read that?
I To me, I did read this sort of depression, but then there's also a lot of guilt that he can't give her the kind of comfortable life that she wants. It's also guilt that he abandoned her that one day that you can see
Correct.
on
So
his
like
face the
I don't
next
know.
day.
Like, correct. So when
It's
he
a
when
lot
he
of, yeah,
he
emotions. I
leaves her
don't,
at the
hmm,
airport and she
yeah.
goes back to her mother, and
Hmm.
then he walks through a door and he walks into that party.
Hmm.
I I don't know if that's a door into the afterlife or if it's a door into him actually, like, to his mind, him addressing his demons finally, or if it's a door into his own life. Charlotte Wells doesn't bother to really explain what happens
Hmm.
to him after, and we never find out in the. If
What did
this
you
was a
guys make of
Bollywood movie,
the
it would have told us, huh?
the postcard scene where he's sort of crying extensively to himself, which I felt was like a cut to sort of the future, not during the holiday. Maybe I'm wrong, but that to me was almost like it just felt almost like, yeah, that is what, maybe I just have that narrative in my head that he would have maybe committed suicide. I don't know why, but that's really what I thought, that he's no longer there.
No, I didn't see that.
Hmm.
I didn't
I
read
saw
that at
that
all.
as a goodbye to her, but I thought that he had maybe left. I didn't think of it as a
Yeah.
suicide sort of thing.
Okay.
Because he probably left, because there is a reason why
Hmm.
she's sitting on her birthday and reminiscing about that particular holiday. Maybe it was like the last time that she actually spent a significant amount of time with him. Maybe he fell back into whatever it is that was hurting him, plaguing him. We don't know what
Also,
it
I think
is.
that birthday of hers makes her the age that he was on that holiday. Like she's
Yeah.
now 31, which is
Yeah.
what triggers it. Mhm.
Which also tells you that he was 20 years old when he had her. So he didn't know what he was doing in the world. He didn't know what to do with the child. He didn't know what to do with the daughter.
Mhm.
And that kind of just also like comes out of nowhere and like hits you like a sucker punch, because Charlotte Wells doesn't reveal until much into the film that this is Sophie watching the old tapes
Mhm.
on her birthday. And it's that birthday where it was her father's birthday that they were celebrating in Turkey. Um, what did you think of the performances? Oh, Suchin, you have a point to make. Suchin, say pehle.
Sure. I was actually going to ask you guys a question because it's something that I was talking to Gail about earlier. Yes, Karan was in a dark place. He went to that dark room in the end with the disco lights kind of flashes.
Yeah, so
Um,
that was what we were discussing. We don't know what the
yeah.
dark room is. All of us have different interpretations of it. Huh, go.
No, I wanted to ask because I was talking to Gail about it earlier. And we were talking about the moment, his sort of irresponsible parenting night where, he's sort of sleeping naked on the bed. And then,
Yeah.
she was saying that was very jarring. And I thought that sort of worked for me because it sort of spoke to his sort of very fractured state of mind, how he's fundamentally not okay, but he's trying to project and perform and be a good parent and keep his shit together. And
Yeah.
that's sort of, I guess, that's sort of his one night that he can't. But Gail, you were saying that felt odd to you, as in it didn't like ring true.
Yeah, because until then, despite him battling his personal demons, like you said,
Yeah.
he's always trying to put on a brave face, be there for her. He tries not to be upset when she loses that mask. You do see moments of him pulling away, like when he doesn't want to sing karaoke with her. But then I thought
Yeah.
him suddenly abandoning her and then passing out in the bed naked, to me that was a little jarring.
Yeah, same. I didn't think that the Callum was the kind of character who would do that, because he's on
Yeah.
this trip. He's 'cause we don't know if one of the things that he is struggling with is substance abuse. Right, so we don't know if he's given to or wont to drinking too much
Mhm.
or smoking something and then being like a negligent caregiver to an underage child. So in that moment, like, I was just concerned and worried that he's going to do something that is going to jeopardize the safety of this young girl. He's going to go off or whatever, and the film does threaten that he's walking into the ocean, or he's just kind of walking the streets, and at
Mhm.
one point he picks up a cigarette stub and smokes it, right?
Yeah.
At one point he does that, like a random cigarette stub that's lying there. So I was a little scared in that moment. But then again, yes, like him passing out on the bed, locked the door, unaware that his daughter's not come back, does not seem like the kind of character that he would be. But then, having said that, one of the reasons why you let it go is because we are not told anything about Callum's past, and except the fact that he was 20 years old when he had this child, and he's divorced and separated from his partner now. So we don't know what's bothering him. We don't know if he's attempted to take his life before or anything of that sort. And that's what makes, like, it's one of the reasons what makes the character so devastating, is because just like Sophie can't read him at the age of 11, we can't read him
Mhm.
either.
I was
Like, yeah.
sorry, I was going to say that phone call scene where he talks to his ex.
Yes.
I was thinking about that a lot. And again, I just sort of had my own thing. He says he didn't expect to make it to 31 and can't imagine turning 40. Yeah, that was another one of those moments of like,
And then he just kind of goes into a space.
Yeah.
yeah,
But then when he says that, I was still at the point of the film where I was trying to get some sort of read on him, and I was like, is he being self-deprecating or is he genuinely being self-loathing? Like, I don't know yet.
Suchin, you were
Yeah.
saying about the phone call.
yeah, no. So I was trying to either understand or make a narrative in my head about what his equation was with his ex and whether, because he says congratulations. So it was. Sorry, Neha says after watching Aftersun, I had an epiphany of how a fun memory that we create in our life could be perceived through so many emotions, melancholy in case of Aftersun and different points of time. No, so
Good. The fact that a movie is giving you an epiphany on life, that is so great. That's the whole point of the film. Well done. Well done, Neha. Yes, Suchin, please go ahead.
no, so I thought that I just sort of made up this narrative that he's sort of still in love with his ex, and sort of even the small things when when he says congratulations, and maybe he sort of got some news about her life, and the very fact, I love that idea of why do you still say I love you, and is that something that he
I
needs
love
to say,
that.
he genuinely
Mhm.
wants to say it. And so then yeah, then you just sort of build this whole thing of, obviously he's not very happy with his life, he can't provide for her money wise, financially, and and also maybe he had this relationship that he's still living in the past, and yeah, just trying to understand his unhappiness. So yeah, that phone call, I sort of just decided that maybe he's still in love with her mother, and that's something that is just another thing that adds to his pool of regret.
I think that also goes to what the reason why that scene is there is to show how much of an effort he has made to give a good life to this child, who
Mhm.
he didn't think that he deserves. Probably he doesn't think that he deserves a young person's love to this extent. So the fact that he's separated from his partner but still has a loving relationship with them is them having made an effort to give this child a good life, and it's like a wholesome moment. It's a very non-toxic moment, and I really appreciated that was in the film.
Mhm.
Gail?
And he's a remarkably open sort of parent also. When he talks to Sophie about this girl he was
Boys.
interested in who had a boyfriend. Yeah, also when he talks to her
Yeah.
about boys, when he says, you can, I mean, when he tells her, you can tell me about the boys that you meet and the drugs that you do, that is still a very sort of standard parent speech. But then when he talks about finding her teacher attractive or like the woman he
Yeah.
wants to date, that means him being a very open father. And I think only the kind of relationship that comes because their age gap isn't that wide.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Also, when she says that I kissed this boy, the first question he asks is, he's your
Yeah.
age, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
she says, yeah. And then he's like, okay, that's cool. Any other, like, I've not seen that in a
Mhm.
movie or in a show or in popular culture in any way. Any other parent, even if the parent doesn't lose their shit, the first reaction is going to be, you did what? Because like a parent's not ready to talk to their 11-year-old probably about kissing someone that they're kind of interested in or sexually attracted to and
Mhm.
physically attracted to. At that I was also like, so there's moments throughout the film which I appreciate for just being wholesome moments of
Mhm.
love, which is also kind of a contributing factor to how much it breaks your heart, because you, at the end, I was crying, and the one thought in my mind was, he tried. He was trying. He tried doing the best he could. And,
I was just
you
going
know,
to say, I imagine that's one of the upsides of, there being such a sort of small age gap between, father and daughter, that, maybe he didn't have his shit together. Maybe he wasn't prepared to have her. Maybe, and maybe there's a lot of guilt there. But the very fact is, I guess the upside of all of that is that sense of friendship, which, like you're saying, how often do we see that sense of seeing each other as people? A lot of their conversations really feel like very, it doesn't feel very sort of talking down father daughter-ish. There's a sense of sort
Mhm.
of friendship there. So yeah, I thought that was interesting.
And
what
Sophie
did
is
you guys?
also unusually perceptive for a child of that age, or for any child. Like she realizes that he's struggling financially. She says when that whole singing conversation happens, and he asks her if she wants to take lessons. She says, "Don't promise things that you can't follow
We
through
don't
on."
have the money. Yeah.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of maturity to say something like that instead of being petulant about it or throwing a tantrum. Like she sees her father, even though she can't see all of him, she doesn't understand all of his pieces. She's still very perceptive. She understands that something's wrong.
For everybody who's watching us right now, please, if you click the like button, there people are gonna know that this long review is going on, and they're gonna come and join us and talk to us further. Gail is doing akhiyon se ishare to someone in the room. My next question is, what did you guys think? Let's talk about the music. Let's talk about the album. I'm gonna pull up the song list here, and let's go. Who wants to talk about the music first? Gail.
Gail, go first. Go with the
Yeah,
climax.
just like great 90s needle drops. Macarena, again. Like for me, the single best use of music in that film was Under Pressure. Like I
Market.
said, it starts out, it's so
Under
goofy, it's
pressure.
funny, you really get it. And then it just suddenly breaks your heart.
Yeah.
Ah,
And then she takes out the music at one point, and it's just the vocals, and she changes it
mhm,
up a little bit. My favorite moment, music wise, was she sings Losing My Religion, and it's like a moment,
mhm,
whatever, she's singing the song, and like in that moment, the meaning of the lyrics change, because she's saying, that's me in the corner, that's me in the spotlight, losing my religion,
mhm,
as she's realizing probably for the first time that her father is probably not going to be supporting her or standing next to her with for everything. And she doesn't know she's realizing that in that moment, because
mhm,
she's only 11. She doesn't have the comprehension of what it means to for somebody to stand with you. But like, she's going to think back on this moment and remember this as the first time her father refused to stand up with her, because she says, I do it every year. When he says, are you
mhm,
going to make me do this, and she says, I do it every year, and this time he refuses to come. um but as soon as she finishes the song, all right, my favorite moment that happens as she finishes the song, and a lady walks up for to sing the next song. You probably don't even see her, and then the song that she's singing is, tide is high but I'm holding on, I'm gonna be your number one, I'm not the kind of girl who gives up just like that. Like, Sophie's not even singing the song, but the song is there so specifically because it's like, through music also, Charlotte Wells is telling the story, and it's so lovely that she's using the songs quite literally. Under
mhm,
pressure, I'm not the kind of girl who gives up just like that. The tide is I'm holding on. I'm losing my religion. That's me in the spotlight. So literal, but like, and then there's one song called Drinking in LA, which is when Sophie is drinking with all those grown up, but she's not drinking, but all those grown up kids are
Mhm.
drinking around her. So it's best possible use of songs, nostalgic songs from our childhood, used very, very literally in the best way possible. I appreciate a cheesy 90s song used well very much.
Gail,
Mhm.
you asked her about the music, right? I think you did. You did in your interview, right?
Yeah, she said that Under Pressure was the only song that she'd wanted for that sequence, and she was glad that it worked out well. And she said that even though the rest of the movie, the first part of the movie, it wasn't working out the way she wanted, the one scene that was always working was that Under Pressure sequence. It's just stunning.
How is she to talk with? Is she lovely?
She was lovely.
Yes. How long did you chat with her?
For about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, it was very quick.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So if anybody wants to read Gail's interview with the filmmaker Charlotte Wells, you can go to the Film Companion website. If you want a direct link, you can go to Gail's Twitter handle and get the direct link from there. Suchin, you were saying something.
No, I just thought of one of the things she said in that interview because I was reading it. It was very interesting. Was one of the most specific things that in the film is the way they use dialogue. It's sort of it's sort of in the background or there's something else going on, and it was such a specific sort of decision. And I think she said that was actually an editing thing because the film was too long.
Mhm.
Like, it was so like intentional. But I think what she said was that the film was too long, and so in an effort to sort of crunch down the time, that's one of the devices they use to try and sort of have the dialogue going on while when sort of the focus is somewhere else. And yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, if that is the case, then it's such a cool effect that creates. It really sort of makes you feel so much. And yeah, I was just very surprised that was a later decision.
Yeah, I was really surprised by how much of the film she said came together in the edit.
Yeah.
Like for me, this seems like such a. And she did say that she spent a lot of time staring at index cards. Like her shortlist, she spent like an hour on creating a shortlist for each page of the script. But for me, it seemed like such a carefully planned out film
Yeah.
from the page itself. I was really surprised by how
Yeah.
much of it came together in the edit.
I was listening to the MUBI podcast where she was a guest, I think last week or 2 weeks ago. I don't know, recently. And she said that there were some scenes that she shot and she had no idea where she was going to use them in the film. For instance, the scene of them swimming in the ocean. Because another very interesting thing she's done with this is that she sent them to Turkey, which we don't see. We don't see Turkey at all. We're
Yeah.
Mhm.
only seeing the hotel. We're only seeing the pool, the resort, white people things, and like a
But also
budget,
budget things, right? I
budget,
would
budget.
imagine that
Yeah,
Callum doesn't really have the budget to take his
yeah.
daughter
So
out for
budget,
like
budget
two.
package
Mhm.
tour things. So
Yeah.
like we'll go to Sunrise when the bus is taking us to Sunrise. So she says that she shot the beach scene for them, like when they're swimming in the, not really swimming, just kind of bobbing up and down in the water,
Mhm.
and then not the diving scene, the beach scene, but then she didn't know where she was going to use it. And then when she was putting the film together, it came to her that this is the moment where we're going to show that they're actually out in the world and they're enjoying the world and they're enjoying, in like 100% joy of being in the
Mhm.
water, limitless with each other in that moment. But what did you think of that, Gail, of like being in Turkey and not being in Turkey?
Yeah, it really speaks to Callum's budget, right? And how he can't afford to take his daughter out in the town and like really show her the sights. You get the sense that he's got this hotel, and the hotel isn't even a great one, right? There's construction going over at the side. So yeah, again, like a very budget thing. Like he has that meal that they dine and dash, they don't pay for. So again,
Yeah,
and then that just makes the carpet scene again so much more heartbreaking, right? Because that's the one of the few times you see them out into some other corner of Turkey buying a
yeah,
carpet, and then that carpet's in her house all those years later,
yeah,
and it's just another memento of like all the things she's lost.
yeah. It's so, like I said, it's so simple, right? It's such a simple
Mm-hmm.
thing to have that carpet just appear in a room, but it's just like on the edit when the carpet appears is what makes all the difference to how we're our relationship with the carpet. Yes, Sujin.
No, I was just going to say your point about what she said in the podcast about shooting things and not knowing that really adds up for me because so much of the film really is sort of moments and memories and montages and just them being and just sort of trying to capture that feeling of so yeah, it makes full sense to me that it really, yeah, whether it's, there must have been a lot of things like that where it's just sort of filming them together, and then figuring out exactly where that comes. So yeah, no, it just
What did
I,
you think of like the Turkey situation of them being in Turkey and not being in Turkey? Why do you think, like, obviously she's made that choice to show that this is a budget trip that they're undertaking, but any thoughts on that?
so honestly, it's a really interesting point that it didn't occur to me at all till you just said it, and it's very, very true. And it is very interesting because like it also just feels like a different kind of holiday. Like obviously it's very fun, but it still doesn't feel like the most glamorous holiday. When I was watching it, I don't know, it didn't feel to me like I really desperately want to go on that holiday. There was a sense of,
Yeah,
maybe it's because there was a sense of sadness in the air, not because it was particularly run down or anything, but it captures that feeling of, there's always something there. You're always like slightly unsettled. Maybe
yeah,
because I was sort of somewhere preparing for the worst. But
yeah,
it's a very good point. It's interesting that, you didn't really feel it. That could have been literally anywhere. It's your typical beach swimming pool thing.
Mhm.
she said
Also, the
in that.
idea of a
Go,
no, I
go,
was
go,
gonna
go,
say
go.
the idea of a holiday in itself is somewhat inherently sad because you get to the last few days of your holiday and you know that it's gonna end,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then like she doesn't know that like this is the last time she'll see her dad probably. Like so much more than that holiday has just ended.
yeah. And also, like, having being on a package tour also kind of gives Callum structure, because he seems like
Mhm.
somebody who doesn't have a lot of structure in his life, because young father, like a 21-year-old, 20-year-old who had a daughter, and isn't like the most kind of, he doesn't have his shit together. It doesn't seem like he has his shit together. It also only seems like he's making an effort because he's a father. And being on a package tour kind of gives him a sense of structure that somebody else is taking care of the situation. I just have to
Mhm.
follow what's already been pre-decided. I also found it interesting that I don't know. Now I'm reading too much into it. Now we've gone into the territory where I'm making my own meaning out of things. But the fact that it's Turkey, which is half Europe, half Asia, it's a little bit of this and it's a little bit of that. So that I found was like an interesting thing, that it's this also and it's that also. Just like that holiday was a holiday also, but it was also a goodbye, in a manner of speaking. This is me being a little too much like, why is this in Turkey? Whereas Charlotte Wells said in that movie podcast that it's because it was something that she did as a child.
What did
Um,
you guys make of her sexuality? I thought it was very interesting. In sort of cutting to present, you see. So I was like, because and obviously it made it a point to show us what I imagine is her first kiss and things like that. So,
yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, I was sort of looking at it for hints. Like after we see that scene, I was looking at hints, thinking back. So what did you guys make of that?
Um, Not much. I thought that
Mhm.
it's just she's gay. Okay.
Yeah,
And
to me the
as an
Mhm.
say na.
No, no, you were saying.
As an 11-year-old, sharing a first kiss with a boy at a resort is more about wanting the experience of kissing somebody.
Yeah,
uh
Mhm.
I don't think it was so much about, oh my, I'm suddenly into boys, because when she's reading these like womanly magazines throughout the trip, like she's seeking them out when her father is not looking. She's looking for like a magazine, like a Cosmo of the time, I assume, and just like picking it up and reading things. I don't think it's about her being interested in boys. I think it's also about her uh feeling these feelings and being like, what is happening to me? What is
yeah,
happening to my heart right now? And when that boy says, I like you, can I kiss you, she says, okay. And it's a
Mhm.
very like, it's not a very dramatic moment. It's just a very like, okay, sure. And even when she talks about it with her father later on, it's not a dramatic reaction that generates from him. Gail.
Yeah, no, to me, I was just gonna say that the woman in the bed wasn't as significant. To me, what was significant in that scene was the sound of the baby crying, which is, yeah, now it's probably also what triggers her to think about her father, right? The fact that she has a
Exactly.
child of her own, the fact that she might be feeling what he felt all those years, the fact that she's not sure he might have felt what she's feeling, but she suspects that. So, yeah, the sound of the baby crying was more significant.
It's so incredible, right? How many things that one quick scene is saying, because she is also perhaps dealing with some trauma in her life that
Mhm.
she's trying to figure out the genesis of, right? When you're in your early 30s, you have enough life experience, as Suchin, you're soon going to realize that it gives you have enough space in your life to now look back on. You've lived at least a good 7 8 years of being the person you are, and most likely are going to remain for the rest of your life unless something drastic happens. And then you find yourself reminiscing towards your earliest memories, trying to figure out why is it that I am like this today, why is this personality trait, and where does this come from, what is the genesis of this, why is it that I am given to becoming angry quickly, why is it that I can't judge people properly, why is it that my friendships don't last very long, or they do last very long, or my relationships don't or do last very long. And then you find yourself going back to those formative moments, the earliest things that you can think of. So she perhaps is also at that point in her life where she's like, why is it that I am having, the baby is crying, so why is it that I'm having maybe trouble with my child, or whatever it is that she's going through. And then she is looking back at those memories and trying to not just understand what her father uh, did, and she didn't understand, but she's also trying to understand where her uh, personality comes from.
Mhm.
With regards to now being, like you said, Gail, it's like the baby crying in that moment, like being a mother, and it's a young kid, right? Because they're discussing who's going to go pick the child up.
Mhm.
So she's probably having an existential crisis about being a parent as well, and that's why figuring out why is it, am I a good parent or a bad parent, whatever it is. The movie doesn't bother with telling us that.
Mhm. It's also really speaking to seeing a parent as a person in their own right, which is what I found really interesting. And not just seeing them through the lens of, oh, he's probably worried because he's my dad and because I've lost this mask and it's expensive, because he has to take care of me on vacation. It's also she's probing about the other parts of his life when he says he's going to start a business and get a flat somewhere. Like she wants to know about the girl he was interested in. So even at that
Yeah.
young age, she's trying to find out about him as a person, which I thought was really interesting because it takes you a while when you're a kid to see your parent as something other than your parent.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. You
Mm-hmm.
when you're that age, your parent is uh either one of two things. One, they are a magician who will make anything happen.
Mm-hmm.
You don't understand where those things happen, how those things happen, but they'll make it happen for you. Or they are just people who are there on this earth to make your life miserable, especially in your preteens. So
It
Chit, more
also,
thoughts?
no, that idea of seeing him as a person, it just makes me think a lot more about exactly what the dynamic and situation is, how often he sees her, divorce wise, when did it happen, how long he was in her life, and things like that. Because that in itself, Mitch just thinks it's, I just thought it must be easier to see someone as a person if
Yeah.
they are the parent you see, say, once a month, once a week, whatever that looks like. And, maybe the kind of conversation she might be having about with her mom about maybe how he doesn't have his shit together and things like that. It sort of, I guess, takes the shine away from the perfect parent idea. So and obviously, like, what Gail was saying about how she's so mature for her age, it again, it just really makes you want to fill in the blanks in your own head about how they got here, what that dynamic was. And yeah, that to me is also why she might also see him as a person, uh, as well as a parent, rather than just this sort of, because this is, in this one week maybe he is the parent, outside of this all the other time he is, a person just trying to get it together
Yeah.
for her.
Mm-hmm.
At some point in time, all of our parents have said to us, "जब तुम parent बनोगे, तब तुम्हें पता चलेगा." Every single person has heard this line. "जब तुम माँ बनोगी या जब तुम बाप बनोगे, तब तुम्हें पता चलेगा." It's literally that moment for Sophie. उसको अब पता चल रहा है what it's like to be a parent.
You're
Yeah,
asking
you guys.
No, you asked about the
Sorry.
performances. You're asking about the performances as well.
हाँ, say
Um,
ना.
no. So with him, firstly, it's very difficult not to get lost in Paul Mescal's eyes. So let's just pass through that one. But no, it was really interesting because for me, it really reminded me a lot of his character from Normal People. There were honestly times where I literally thought this could be him, like in Normal People, that character we see him from sort of high school till sort of just after university and stuff. And like there were times I literally thought this could be him 6 years down the line, because it's a very similar zone, not necessarily similar person, but even there, it's someone who's the element of that idea of going through an inner hell but projecting something else, projecting a sense of normalcy, that I'm okay, but deep down sort of it's very depressed and unhappy and things like that. And that felt familiar, but obviously in a very different way. But no, I thought he was, I mean, both of them were absolutely excellent. And he just has this thing where, like, he really makes you want to go inside his head and always just try and figure out exactly how he's feeling or what he's feeling. Uh, Even if you don't know, even if it's not obvious, you really want to understand it. I think he's just got something.
They've also shot him that way.
Yeah.
Like the some of the footage is obviously camcorder, so it's steady, unsteady and grainy. But even when
Mhm.
she's recreating moments from her memory, it's like, you know, they've shot him in a very like human manner. Like you see people in real life. There's no like, movie magic, camera work, kind of
Mhm.
shooting a movie star kind of thing. But Gail, do you think that parts of her memory she is lying to herself and she's not misremembering what that vacation was when we're not watching the camcorder footage? Because I felt like that.
Like
It's really
a false
interesting because
narrator?
to me, Suchin, you were saying?
No, no, as in like a unreliable narrator, that whole thing.
Not
Mhm.
an unreliable narrator, but like memories of an 11-year-old, what she felt in that moment that this moment was about. And so now when she's trying to remember it, she's probably remember what she felt instead of what it actually was.
Hmm. It's interesting
I
because
felt
to
that.
me, when I was watching it, I felt like as an adult, now she's trying to get to the truth of it. She's trying to see things for what they were as opposed to like what she might have seen as an 11-year-old. But I also
Hmm.
read this interview with Charlotte Wells where she said the theme of this movie is denial, which I found very interesting because it was completely contrary to my reading of it.
Yeah,
So I don't know,
especially
is she in denial about, still in denial about what her father was going through? I don't think so. That's not what came through to me.
Amit Roy has just sent a very sweet message. He's saying, being a father of an 8-year-old, this movie hit me very hard. I have watched the climax of this movie multiple times now, and each time it hits hard in a different way. Oh, like, see, that just immediately, like, I'm just like welling up immediately because it made me think of when I was 11 and when I was going on these family vacations and like arguing with my parents, and because I had two other siblings, so it was all like quite chaotic. And then, like, you finally reach a point where you're like, ah, you know what, you tried, I forgive you, and I hope that we can be friends. And when you reach that point in your life, like, it takes a lot of working upon yourself to reach that point. And like I said, I felt like it was me, like I was Sophie.
Mhm.
Because we have those handycam footage that we watch occasionally, that handycam footage that we watch occasionally with the family. We had that same handycam when we went on vacations, and we listened to our voices when we were 11, 12, and 13. And you're like, I can't believe I said that, and I can't believe I voluntarily did that on video, or said that to my parent, or my parent said that to me, and it's all on video. And watching, it's like going back in time, right? You're being able to see your life. No, sorry, so coming back to my previous point, especially in that scene where they are taking the mud bath, where
Mhm.
he apologizes to her like 3 4 times for being absent the night before, for falling asleep on her bed and just like forgetting all about her. That is not a camcorder footage, that is a very clear shot, and I felt like
Mhm.
that is a scene that she is misremembering as being a moment where like her father actually apologized to her for being a bad father the night before. And maybe he didn't actually apologize to her, because like he apologizes to her so much over and over again that and I felt like her reaction to it and that conversation is a very adult conversation. So maybe,
Mhm.
in her adult mind, she's recreated that moment as how it should have been, and she's blocked out for what it really was,
But
I
then again,
guess.
all of the memory footage in this movie, the footage that's not camcorder footage, just when you see the two of them
Could
hanging
be
out,
that.
all of it is so vividly remembered and so pristine. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't look like what we think the act of remembering is like. Like it's not coming in flashes, it's not jagged, it's not blurry. The brave portions are all of those things. But
Yeah.
the act of memory in this movie is completely crystal clear. Which, yeah, maybe
The
you're onto something. Maybe it's just her putting pieces together, filling them in with what she thinks happened.
Maybe
Sometimes when
that's why
he's
she's
sitting on his
having
bed and
such.
crying alone, she wouldn't have seen that, right? Because he'd been
Yeah,
hiding it
no.
from her. So that's
Yeah.
just her filling in her memories.
Then maybe this is what he was feeling that day when I saw him
Mhm.
looking upset. And also, maybe that's why the 11-year-old Sophie that we meet is so mature and, like we were just discussing, kind of advanced beyond her age in terms of her emotional reaction to things. Because
That's
the
how she.
11-year-old Sophie that we're seeing in the camcorder is a real one, but the pristine shots, the actual shots, camera work, is the adult Sophie recreating those memories as how she should have handled or would have handled that vacation when she was 11, with the understanding of the world that she has now.
Mhm. Yeah, the
Oh, she.
camcorder Sophie, now that you mention it, is
More
childlike,
goofy.
right? She giggles about the octopus on her head, and then she
Yeah.
talks about wanting an ice cream as big as her head, things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, she is more goofy.
And she's making faces and she's pretending to be a news
Mhm.
anchor and she's putting on a show. But when the camcorder's off, it's a very different Sophie. So maybe it is her remembering with an adult understanding of what an 11-year-old conversation with her father would have been like.
Mhm.
Suchin, you were saying something.
No, no. Sorry. On that track, yeah, or maybe it's what she wished those conversations were. Amit Roy says the climax shot playing to the tune of Under Pressure is just superb.
It
Uh,
is.
it is. I also just with memory. I mean, like Gayle was saying, it's not. It really isn't. It isn't that sort of blurry montage thing where it feels like a collection of sort of flashes coming back. But yeah, I kept thinking about all the things that we didn't see. Like I kept thinking that maybe these are the memories that she's held on to and that she remembers. But I kept thinking like about everything that could have happened on that trip that she did. Not that it had to be particularly dramatic or something bad happened, but yeah, I just kept thinking, these are the moments, because that's, I guess, how memory works in a weird way, that she attached significance to. But I couldn't help but wonder what everything else that might have happened, how he must have been at the points which she doesn't remember or she doesn't attach some sort of importance to.
Now, I have a question for the both of you. The rave scenes, quick cuts, flashing lights, are we inside Sophie's mind during those scenes? Or are we inside Callum's mind during those scenes? Because I thought that we were inside Callum's mind, but after this conversation, I feel like maybe we're inside Sophie's mind, of her trying to make sense of her father's mental illness and what it must have been like to be him and what his mind must have been
Mhm.
like. Because we enter the film and we stay in the film through Sophie. We don't enter and stay in the film through Callum. Thoughts?
I took the rave as a very literal space. I'll say that, because to me, it seems like it's Sophie's birthday. Maybe she's gone out to a party to try and distract herself. Maybe Under Pressure starts playing at the rave, and that's what takes her back. And then from there, it's her thinking that she sees her father in the crowd, wishing that she sees her father, wanting to finally wrestle control of that image. So to me, that's what she's thinking about. But I saw the
Yeah.
rave as a literal place. I didn't see it as a place inside someone's mind.
Suchin?
So mine was similar to what you had said about early on. I thought it was his mind, and then towards the end, I thought it was hers. But yeah, a lot of those scenes, especially at the end, I was struggling to try and connect with and understand. Like it's one of those things where, for me, sometimes you don't fully understand what's happening, but you still feel it. And yeah, that's something that I really wanted to just like read up about, because yeah, I didn't, I couldn't fully piece together exactly what it was trying to convey. Um, and yeah, then that's when I was trying to sort of read up on interviews, because it's one of those strange scenes where, like, even with him walking into that room, it's one of those things where, like, you feel it even if you don't quite understand it.
Yeah. And there's, you see flashes of him as a young boy and his parents, and then him hugging himself as a young boy. And that, like, thinking about it later, like even now especially, it's making me feel like it's Sophie's mind, because she has gone back in time and is hugging herself as an 11-year-old through the footage that she's watching, and comforting herself and like telling herself that it's okay to forgive your father, and it's okay to have a little bit of resentment toward him, but also let's make peace with it now. Let's go of the
That is
resentment, let go.
quite interesting when he talks about his 11th birthday. Like, again, stuff like this. I'm always wondering about his father and his parents and his background and how he was raised. And when he says that, my
They
birthday,
forgot about me.
yeah, they got very annoyed and dragged me where they had to buy a toy. And suddenly you just try to piece together the kind of upbringing he had and how that sort of reflects on the kind of father he is, on the kid that we assume was maybe not planned, and things happened or whatever.
Yeah. More thoughts on that rave sequence, Gail?
It's really interesting how you say she's trying to make peace with it, because that's not what I felt. Like, she's still angry with him. She's screaming at him at the rave. And it's all of the things that she wishes she could say to her father and he's not here. And she's still holding on to all of that. To me, it doesn't seem like she's at a place where she can let it go or be at peace.
I think that's why that also kind of bleeds into my previous point about her misremembering him
Hmm.
apologizing to her.
Hmm.
So like over and over again for one night that she remembers him just like abandoning her in a strange place where she got lost and like kissed a boy, and which at that point was adventurous, but then later on you realize how dangerous that was, and that's why she's misremembering her father actually being apologetic. And like I
Or
think I'm
maybe
not
that
saying
makes it even more devastating, the fact that he would apologize for like one bad night, but then isn't here to apologize for like a lifetime of hurt he's inflicted
I love that. I love that we can make so much different meaning
on.
of a 1 hour 40 minute film. जितनी लंबी फिल्म नहीं है, मतलब आधे तो हमने डिस्कशन कर लिया आधी फिल्म के ड्यूरेशन के जितने. But I love that. Yeah. So for sure, like I see what you're saying, that like she's still angry with him. Like my reading was that is
Mhm.
that she's finally coming to a place of peace, of being like the generational trauma ends with me, because he obviously is carrying generational trauma from his own parents, and she's
Mhm.
finally come to a place of like also in 2022 or 23 or 21 or 20 where we are in this movie. We have a lot more resources at hand. We are a lot more aware of our mental health. We are a lot more aware of the signs and symptoms of generational trauma, and what must be done to deal with it. So perhaps, like in current times, she's aligned herself with uh not aligned herself, but she's like uh made it a point to stop the generational trauma. And now that she has a child, and she's actively concerned that she's going to pass it on to her child as well, and that's what's making her go back and find answers to how I can stop this from happening to the next generation. What happened to me and what happened to my father.
For me, I think more than I didn't get a sense of peace or forgiveness. Afternoon is basically poetry, which means different things to different people. Clearly, very much so. No, but yeah, for me, I didn't get a sense of peace or forgiveness. For me, it was like acceptance of sort of accepting that, and maybe obviously on hindsight, seeing what her father was and slash what he was going through, even if it's not coming to a point of sort of being at peace with that or forgiving that. But again, yeah, just the idea of the act of searching, just the whole film just felt like an act of trying to understand, like, what did I miss, and was it right in front of me the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, more than sort of necessarily forgiving him or making peace with it, but I guess accepting it or finally seeing it for what it was.
I was talking to a friend, and she was saying that after everybody watches Aftersun, we should organize like group therapy sessions of like people just coming together and unburdening themselves, because it is that kind of film that encourages you to unburden a little bit. I felt that, you know it, it's going to sound like a really bizarre thing to say, but I felt like it made me a better person after the film. I'm a calmer individual, and perhaps after the second viewing it'll make me even better. Final thoughts on Aftersun, Suchin and Gail. Suchin, you go first. Final thoughts.
Um, my final thoughts. I'm really glad we could have done this, because for me it was like so much of it was just an experience of trying to connect with it and really see what was going. And it's the kind of film I'm desperate to discuss, to get different perspectives.
Yes, did you
But
get this different perspectives today?
very much so, yeah. Like completely, like I was, yeah, very much so. And yeah, it really is a kind of film where, because like I literally after I watched the film, I was reading a few reviews. I read Gail's review and her interview and things like that. And just coming back to where we started, it just makes you want to read up on it, discuss it, digest it, and really revisit it, because
Yeah.
and it almost feels like it's designed for that. For the second viewing, for that, almost just like her. Now that you have a different piece of information, you get something completely different from it, from him, and maybe what he was going through.
Gail.
Yeah, like I'm really glad we could have done this, because when I watched it, it felt so personal. But now that I'm thinking about it, it's such a communal experience, and it's also
Yeah.
a very generational thing, right? I feel like we'll remember our parents a lot differently because we have so much video footage of them, like you said. It must be
Yeah.
a lot harder for people of an older generation who don't have footage of their parents. I mean, who might not even have
Barely have photos.
well preserved albums. Yeah. How do you go back and hold on to an image of someone when it's so fleeting in your mind?
Yeah. Aftersun is streaming on MUBI. Like this thumbnail loudly exclaims, it might already be one of the best films we will watch this year. I am actually going to stand by that. I think it might be one of the best films we're going to watch this year. At the end of the year, we're going to have this on our lists. Speaking of, what are we looking forward to watching this week, you guys? Suchin, I know you're watching Trial by Fire. Don't No reviews, embargo. No reviews, please. No opinion on the show yet. But yes,
Thank
Trial
you
by
for not,
Fire.
thank you for not getting me sued. No, so this week
Yes.
I got three things. Yes, Trial by Fire, which is the latest Netflix original show, and tomorrow I'm doing the Tamil superstar mass movie double bill of Vijay and Ajit's.
That's right. I'm
So yes,
watching Varisu. I'm watching Varisu at 6 a.m.
oh, you got a
6
six.
a.m.
I'm going for an
Yeah.
8.
I am
Yeah.
watching it at 6. You know why? Because I want to see what that's like. Because I watched Vikram at 7 and I thought that was like the pinnacle of fandom. But I went and I saw that like 50% of the auditorium is sold out at 6 a.m. And I was like, I'm going to wake up at 5:30 and I'm going to go to my next door Audi. But I want to experience that, यार. 6 बजे कौन आता है फिल्म देखने के लिए और वो कैसे लोग होते हैं और वो कैसे इंटरेक्ट करते हैं मूवी से मुझे देखना है. तो मैं
There are
कल
only
जा
two
रही हूँ
times.
देखने वारिसु 6 बजे.
There are only 2 times I've ever done that, the 5/6 a.m. show, and both times have been unforgettable experiences. Bahubali 2 and Avengers Endgame, which again, you can tell why they had 5/6 a.m. shows, and no regrets at whatsoever.
So you're watching both Tunnivu and Varisu.
Yes. So Varisu is in the morning at 8, and then I think I'll go maybe later in the day. I haven't figured out the second one yet.
And you're reviewing both of them for Hindustan Times?
Yes. Yeah.
Wonderful. So we'll read Suchin's reviews of Varisu and Tunnivu at Hindustan Times in Hindustan Times this week, and your review of Trial by Fire, which is the Netflix series that is going to come out on Film Companion. Trial by Fire sounds like a international production, but it is not. It is very much a Hindi show starring Abhideol Rajshri Deshpande. They're both very, very good in this series. That's about the Upahar tragedy of 1997. If I may say so right now, don't miss this show. It streams on 13th of January. Gayle, what are you watching, my love?
I'm also, I think, 2 episodes into Trial by Fire. Which embargoes I won't say anything about, but I'm looking forward to Megan by James Wan and Akela Cooper. Because Malignant is one of my favorite horror comedies. I think they get that balance so right, and they're so unhinged, but in a very precise, controlled way. So I'm looking forward to Megan.
Megan is this Friday?
This Friday.
Megan with the 3. Okay, so you're watching Megan. And then rest of the month is also a big month, at least for the Hindi reviewers. There's Pathan, there's Kuttey. 2 big releases this month. Gayle, do you watch You on Netflix?
Yes. I used to watch it when it was on Lifetime, and I used to wait every week for the episode to drop.
It's coming back.
I've come so far from there.
First week of February. Cannot wait. And he's like now a professor. Like, what?
How does he keep getting jobs? How does he keep getting his visa applications approved?
So we'll see what You season 4 is going to be about. Thank you, Suchin. And Gayle के सारे reviews भी आप Film Companion पे पढ़ सकते हैं इस हफ्ते. Thank you, Suchin. Thank you, Gayle. Thank you for indulging me one more time and for having this really candid and heartfelt conversation about
Family therapy.
Please watch the movie.
Family
therapy. Are we family, Suchin?
We are now.
We? We are now. Our names are practically the same. The portmanteau of our name would be Sucharita.
That is true.
Suchin and Sucharita portmanteau would just be Sucharita. Thank you, guys. I love you both. Good night.
Bye.
Good night. Thank you for having us. Bye.